I've got a tonic additive as well, which is very good. So, all right.
Okay, we are now live.
Right. Welcome to this interim conference coming. And we do apologies for that, don't we? So we'll, do we have any apologies for absence?
Yes, Councillor Collins, Councillor Deschamps.
Yes, thank you. And then declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest?
I live opposite the piece of land that I'm talking about.
I live on Linton Village, but I don't own any property in Linton Village.
I also live in the region, I also don't own any property in the village. So we then go into the public session. We have a member of the public, Mr. Watmore, my apologies, to speak about the land sale. So now the opportunity.
Fine. Yeah, thank you for allowing me to speak. I had some shock actually a couple of weeks ago when I actually found out that these auction was taking place to take over or to sell the land, which, as far as I could tell from the maps, etc., was all of Linden Village. And I have a couple of concerns that come out of that. One of those sort of concerns really, or else I'll see it, my concerns are in two areas. One, which is the section of land which actually is adjacent to March Edge, which, if this was sold at public auction, it's about the only piece of land that anybody would ever want to try to get planning permission on it, which seems an unreasonable sort of place. So if I talk about that one first, I did actually sort of go on to the auctioneers, and I have myself actually had a legal pack. Now I'm not a legal person, so I can only sort of like go through and sort of pick out sort of certain things which I actually sort of see there. And quite clearly, when I actually did that, I spoke to Catherine. Oh, sorry, Catherine. And she very kindly got on to people in Buckinghamshire Council and emailed them, and their response, which she then passed back to me on the 14th of June, was just taking a bit of the bypass works, the estate roads and footways, as well as some of the green spaces on the development, are already adopted. Though we don't have details of the party responsible for the upkeep of the green space areas. That was one thing I picked up on. Further down in their response, the majority of the roads, footways and green spaces on this lake are already adopted. I went on to say that they can't do anything with the areas over which we have maintenance. Then they went on to say that people, any person that bought it, they couldn't do anything with the areas over which we have maintenance responsibility, and would take appropriate action if they were actually selling it. Now, I don't really know quite how these sort of things work. I do know that actually in the auction sort of details, it actually sort of said that certain parts of the property are already adopted. They thought they were. But pretty much it comes down to anybody who's buying it to make sure that they have done their homework, and they are then subject to any sort of permissions, etc. that are on there. What I did actually sort of find out, looking through it, there, some of the history, there are things like planning permissions and everything that they actually have. Those planning permissions did actually encompass one of the planning applications that was turned down, which, for anybody who knows that piece of land, was for 28 houses. And that was going back to 10th of the 10th, 91, which that was then turned out. The latest application which went on there, which actually was an application in November 2002, and that was actually refused planning permission, and that actually went to appeal. Now that was actually, that appeal was rejected on the 23rd of the 8th, 2005. There is no mention in the legal pack of that latest application, which I would have thought there would have been. I would have thought there would have been actually something from council, sorry, from county or whoever has got the results of that. Further to that, I do have particular some dealings with the council when it's with ABDC, and I did actually know at that sort of point that a good portion of the land on in the village had not been adopted, and at the time it actually related to the piece of land which was actually next door to my house, which had grass at about 4 foot high, and people were setting light to it, and there were rats all over the place. And to my knowledge at that time, Aylesbury Vale District Council were agreeing to cut it twice a year. And I know subsequently Town Council have been cutting it regularly. But is the Town Council actually doing that without actually having the rights over that sort of land? I mean, I don't really mind because it's actually nice and neat to get cut regularly. But those are sort of issues which sort of come up on that particular piece of land. So the issue really is anybody who wants to buy it, as I can see it, would only want to actually buy it so they could actually go for planning permission and see if they could actually get something like that. I'm going to get it. I have been sort of told no, they won't get planning permission. But I am, and probably shouldn't say this, at the time of the last application that went on there, which was for 7 terraced houses and 2 semi-detached houses, I did actually read in sort of the pack that I think it was actually either after the refusal was the planning application was refused. Correct me if I'm wrong, it might have been actually then or actually after the appeal. I think it was after planning. They were then offering to let all the land be adopted and to transfer it all over. So if I'm a cynic, one might sort of say, somebody gets hold of the land, well, we'll transfer it all over if you give us planning permission on some of these for a number of houses. What they did actually, so I actually sort of picked up on that. When they said, I think I asked, could you actually find out? And I sent back and said, that the majority of the roads, footways and green spaces are already adopted. I assume it is these where maintenance responsibility exists. So if they've been adopted, then they're paying for. And I actually asked the question, are Buckinghamshire Council able to definitively state which areas within the village have been adopted and which have not? And this actually links back to the actual option itself, because they appear to be trying to buy the whole lot, whether it's been adopted or not. And this was actually picked up actually by the people in Buckinghamshire Council, who actually said, the majority of the roads, footways and green space on the estate are already adopted. So I was actually saying, well, what have they adopted and what haven't they? Right, just to sort of see so that we can get a clearer picture. And I do know that, as I said, Aylesbury Vale District Council were maintaining it and subsequently sitting that in there. So that's the one sort of issue. And I wouldn't want to necessarily sort of see housing on there. It was actually sort of thrown out on appeal. It was counted as being an amenity space. But nobody can actually sort of say to me definitively that if somebody was to get hold of the land and then it was actually have, they would go for planning permission, that they wouldn't necessarily get it. I mean, I don't know whether in fact if something real is that sort of case. So if anybody can answer that for me, I'd like to know. The other thing that I actually sort of picked up on when I'm looking through the legal pack, as I said, there was no mention of that particular planning permission. There was a piece which actually sort of said that the ring road and Burley Peace, as far as I can determine, and I'm not an expert on legal pack. Certainly the ring road, I think, had been adopted. But it was less clear about Burley Peace. The question was, yeah, the highway is available and is maintained at public expense. So that was actually sort of related to the bypass. The same was not actually said of Burley Peace. It actually comes down to it, and if one or other of those isn't actually adopted, the thought then actually came from, and actually only today, that anybody who wants to buy this, where are they going to buy it? And it struck me then as we have a situation, I think, where people have bought a house on Lace Hill. I certainly know there's a state in Cranfield, where the houses are sold freehold, where they have an annual maintenance. It actually comes out. And it strikes me that if anybody is going to buy that, they would then actually want to get some money out of it. So are they going to then maintain all the roads? And are they then actually going to actually have an annual sort of maintenance sort of fee, which they would then want the residents of Linden Village to pay? Because I think that's what actually happens at Lace Hill, is it not? Anybody know anything?
It does, yeah.
It is. So they have that. If they have a maintenance cost, nobody can actually sort of say how much of that's going to be from one year to the next. If they can virtually put their own figure on it, and they're not going to do it without making a healthy profit. So that concerns me, and it also concerns me given that every single household up in the village actually paid I don't know what the word is a precept or bond. It's a bond, is it? Yeah. They paid towards a bond, which actually then it goes to the upkeep of the village, and then after a certain amount of time, within the original planning permission, they were the rest of the land and everything was supposed to have been adopted by council. That never happened, and I really don't know whether some of it, I assume that some of it had actually happened, to be honest, because a lot of the grounds were getting nicely mowed and everything, but this would seem to suggest otherwise. Right. So that's my two concerns. One is about planning permission, which would take away the one small amenity space that the inspectors identified that could be used by young children actually on in the village. The other one is I really don't know how serious it is, but the very, I would say, serious possibility that somebody wants to buy the land and then they are going to be sort of putting on maintenance contracts and everything out to the residents. So I would hope if you would, could you please consider all that in your deliberations later on.
Okay, thank you very much. The 15 minutes of the public session. So I think you were drawing to a close then, weren't you?
Yes, I'm
Yeah, okay.
just wanted to bring that to you.
Yeah, thank you very much for doing that. Is there anything we can say from our information to respond? Are there questions or concern? Wish to respond from the councillors?
No, I think that's good information. Thank you very much.
Okay. Right, thank you for listening.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. And we will, of course, pick this up in agenda point number 4. Before that, we have agenda point number 3, which regards the support for Ukrainian refugees. We have received and can note the terms of reference from that group, and we also have a report from the communications clerk. Would you like to take us through the main points of that?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So just to give you a very brief summary of things that I didn't talk about in the report. As you know, the community group started about March, and the town council's been giving them a lot of support to work out what it was that they wanted to do and how they wanted to deliver it and how it was going to work. In the meantime, they are now a really solid group. They're delivering some really good projects. So last week they held a question and answer session with various stakeholders, which was an opportunity for people to get questions answered live, translated into Ukrainian from various level of services, systems, lives, Buckingham Council, the local health centre. So that was really, really helpful, went really well. So as a group, they're functioning extremely well. They've been donated, at this point, it's about £1,000 worth of locally raised money that people want to be donated to Ukrainians who are now living in the area for whatever it is that they need. Because the support, the Ukraine group is so new, it doesn't have a bank account, it's going to take a long time to set all of those things up. And they asked us if we would repeat what we did after the flooding in December 2021, and set up a panel, we'll hold the funds, and then with the panel, they'll help to decide how the money's given out. That pretty much covers it. Do you have any extra questions?
Thanks, Louise. Are there questions, comments?
Firstly, can I thank you ever so much for all the work you've done on this with council, and we do appreciate it.
Sure.
And the fact that you brought this report to us today, it shows the commitment not only of the organisation and the community, but yourself and officers. I have absolutely no problem with the recommendation. I'd like to propose that we agree the recommendation. It's the right thing to do in the right circumstances, and we've got a past history in acting in such ways. And
1 second. I was going to second that.
Seconded and third.
But I mean, going on, I mean, the report speaks for itself, and thank you again for the work you've done. I spoke to you before the meeting, which was really interesting how well that you've done and how much the organisation's bedding together, and the fact that there was people there to translate and to interpret information shows something to be proud of.
Thank you very much. Anybody else who would like to speak? Otherwise, we can take this to the vote. Do we agree with the recommendations? Thank you.
I'm going to
Thank you very much, Louise.
Carry on the good
Very helpful. For item 4, do we go to close session?
It's what you want to propose going to closed session.
You're proposing the private session.
I'll second it.
So members of the public, would you care to step outside for a moment, please? Sheila, do you want to come in to make room outside as we might be planning?
Does that mean we need to stop the YouTube session as well?
Yeah.